Hello Heisters, it's Axiom with Good Time Gaming, and today I'm going to be going over a couple of melee builds for Payday 2. Now, as you probably have noticed in game, melee isn't exactly the way to go if you want to kill a lot of enemies really quick. But with a few key skills and by modifying your playstyle just a little bit, melee can actually work. Is it as good as using your gun? Well, no, not really. But it does provide a different way of playing the game and is a welcome reprieve from the more dominating builds in the game. Let's first talk about the DLC you will need if you want to run the builds as they are laid out in this guide. You will need the Yakuza Character Pack DLC. As of this video, it is $4.99 USD. The reason we need this pack is because of the Shinsakudo Katana that is contained within it. This blade is very strong, like really strong. The katana is capable of hitting 675 damage if you fully charge it up, and you have the melee perks. It also has really low concealment, making it viable for low concealment builds. You can probably get away with using a weapon from a different pack, but the katana just really works really well and I would recommend using it. Next up, you will need to own the deluxe edition of Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number. Owning this game will unlock Jacket in Payday 2, which will in turn unlock the Sociopath perk deck. This is the perk deck that we will be using. If you own the Dragon character pack, you can use Infiltrator as well, but in my opinion, Sociopath is far more reliable at keeping you alive when you are engaged with multiple enemies. In order to use this build, you need to understand how Sociopath works. So we're going to go through each and every part of this perk deck and kind of explain what exactly you're getting. So starting out, we have No Talk. When you are within medium range of an enemy, you receive 8% less damage from enemies. So pretty self-explanatory. Next up is Helmet Popping. This is standard among all the decks, 25% more damage from headshots. Next up is Tension. Killing an enemy regenerates 30 armor. This cannot occur more than once every 2 seconds. So whenever you kill somebody, you get 30 armor back. Pretty nice. Blending in, same as everything else. Clean Hit. Killing an enemy with a melee weapon regenerates 10% health. This cannot occur more than once every 2 seconds. So cutting someone's head off gets 10% of your health back. Pretty nice. Walk-in Closet. This is the same within all the other ones as well. Overdose. Killing an enemy at medium range regenerates 30 armor. This cannot occur more than once every 2 seconds. So you can see here you have a number of ways to get back your armor as well as your health. Fast and Furious. You do 5% more damage. Does not apply to melee damage. Sorry. Showdown. Killing an enemy at medium range has a 75% chance to spread panic among your enemies. Panic will make enemies go into short bursts of uncontrollable fear. This cannot occur more than once every 2 seconds. So this one's really nice, and this part of the perk deck is going to be what really keeps you alive, in addition to the armor and health regeneration, because killing someone is going to make the buddies around him start freaking out, which means that they're not going to be shooting at you, they're going to be falling over, they're going to be crying, they're going to be wishing their mommy was there to give them a hug or something like that, but they're not going to be hurting you. And that means that's a chance for you to get in there and get all up in that ass and carve it up. So, very nice, and you'll get to see how awesome this is in the later part of the video. You've paid the money and now you have the DLC. Let's turn our attention to the build. Let's start with what I call the shell build, the perks that are mandatory and should be shared between any iteration of this build. We'll start with Mastermind. When it comes to Mastermind, you should start by acing Endurance. If you don't have infamy points, then you'll probably have to put some filler points here and there. Just kind of put them wherever to get to where you need to go to. Once you've aced Endurance, you're going to want to go up to Leadership and go ahead and ace that one as well. And then finally, make your way up into the 3rd tier and get the 1st rank of Dominator. This is just so that you're able to get cops to surrender if things get really ugly. Next up, we're in the Ghost Tree. Start by acing Sprinter and then working your way up to Fast Hands and acing that one. Take the 1st rank of Cleaner and then go over to Shinobi and get the 1st rank in that. Next up, we're in Fugitive. Now, if you're wanting to run this as a low concealment build, then you're going to want to take Hidden Blade and just ace that out. If you don't really have any interest in going the concealment route, you can still ace it and just move on, but it'll kind of depend on how you want to play this build, which I'll get into a little bit later. So just for the sake of argument, we're just going to go ahead and ace Hidden Blade and then take the 1st rank of Run and Gun. So at this point, we've gotten everything in all of the trees except for Enforcer, which is where the bulk of our points are going to go to. So let's now go over to Enforcer. Start by acing Transporter and Enforcer and then working your way up to Pumping Iron. Go ahead and ace this one. Next up, you'll want to ace Die Hard, ace Underdog. At this point, we've gotten pretty much all the abilities that we really absolutely have to be able to run this build. So I'll show you guys a couple different versions of this build, and I'll kind of tell you what I think is the better ones to use. I'm going to start by going with the build that I prefer to run, and this is an Enforcer heavy build using armor, so I'm going to go ahead and start that one up here. So this is how my Enforcer tree looks in my build. As you can see, I still have 48 points left, which we'll get to those in a minute. But this is how Enforcer side looks for me. Now, like I said, there's a couple different ways you can play this build. You can go armor, which is what I've done here, or you can also go dodge and just go for the low concealment type of build. I prefer armor because I feel like it holds up a little bit better, and it's a little more viable if you want to play on Death Wish. I don't really recommend trying to play melee on Death Wish, but if you want to do it, I'd probably go armor. So yeah, here we are. I prefer to use shotguns for my primary with this build because I'm kind of close to people anyways, so if I need to pop a kill real quick, like on a taser or a cloaker, and I don't want to try and risk going for a melee, then I can easily do that with some delicious shotgun rounds. So the way that I kind of see it, you have two major choices that you can go with if you want to go for an armor build. You can either go into Technician and go for more of like a Tech Forcer type build, or you can head on over to Mastermind, you can pick up Inspire. So I'll show you guys kind of the skill set for each of those two. Let's start with Technician for that Tech Forcer goodness. So here's what Technician would look like if you're going to go for a Tech Forcer melee build. So as you can see, the skill set is a gigantic mess here. That's because we just barely have enough points to get up to and max out Bulletproof. In order to get there, I've really foregone any attempt to try and make C4 useful, since you're not really going to be using C4 with a build like this anyways. You do have drill skill, so there is that. You do have basic shockproof, so if a taser does get a hold of you, you will be able to make the attack backfire so you can free yourself, so that's good. And we went ahead and aced Bulletproof just so we get that extra armor, and it can also help out our crew a little bit. So here's one option. This is, I guess, more of a selfish way to play the build because you're not really able to do a lot for your team. You have ammo, you have the armor recovery, but it's not really like a team build, quote unquote. However, with this build, you do have 255 armor, and considering that you regain armor whenever you hit people with your melee, it's pretty powerful and you tend to stay alive. So there is that. So here we have the Mastermind build, if you want to go with a Master Forcer for this. Now, considering this is a build that I predominantly use on Overkill, I like to have Joker just because it's kind of fun to use. It's not the best use of points, it's not the most amazingly awesome set of skills in the game, but it's fun and it's just something I like to have. It makes me move a little bit faster if I can get a cop to stay alive. So that's how I choose to build it. You can go for the Doctor Bags if you wish, so that's always an option as well if you prefer to do that. But this is just how I built mine, and this is how I tend to play it. You have Inspire, so you're able to help your teammates out, so that's good. This variation also maxes Combat Medic and Painkillers, so you have a little bit of support when it comes to that. You also have 10 points left with this variation, so you can really decide to put these wherever you want if you're going to go this way. You can maybe go for Cable Guy if you really want to be able to tie up civvies. You could go over to Enforcer, maybe take Fully Loaded, the basic of that, so you only have 10 points. You could also max stun resistance so you can get through flashes, which is, it's pretty advisable because I mean, if you get melee, if you're in melee range and you get flashed, that can be kind of bad. So you might want to go for that. There's a lot of different options here if you want to go this route, so just kind of put the points wherever you think you might benefit from them for your playstyle. Alright, so let's now take a look at the dodge variation of this build. So for dodge, here's how it's going to look in our fugitive tree. So here's how my fugitive build looks whenever I'm finished. I don't like to be entirely worthless and be the guy that brings only 4 medkits to a game, so I tend to go ahead and just ace uppers. It does cost a lot of points, but that's just how I prefer to play it. If you want to be a little less team-centric, then you can definitely not ace that out, but I won't go ahead and do it. This version also takes Swan Song simply because of the fact that we're already going into the fugitive tree deep to get the Sneaky Bastard and Low Blow combination. So with Swan Song, if you do get downed, you do have those few seconds to where you can take down a couple more guys or try and scurry back to safety so that your teammates can get you back up successfully. With this variation, we have 32 skill points left that we can kind of put wherever we want to. You could go a Ghost Mine and maybe go for Silent Killer, so you could do that. You could just go up through here, pick up Silent Killer skills. It's okay. I mean, you can do that if you really want to. You could also go over here to Enforcer, and if you want to do Shotgun, which is how I like to play mine. So I'm gonna go over here, I'm actually gonna pick up Shotgun skills. So here's what that looks like once it's done. So with our few kind of random points, I just throw them into Mastermind just to put them there. So there you have a more dodge centric build, Fugitive and Enforcer. So there's a few versions. Really, you can pretty much play any way you want to. You could do some crazy build that's like a Mastermind Technician thing if you wanted to. Really, as long as you have those melee perks and those kind of general abilities that I talked about in the very beginning, you can pretty much play however you want to. There's not really a, you have to do this way to play this. That's kind of nice. It has a little bit more freedom than other builds do. So good news there. Let's talk a little bit about weapons. So here's what my inventory panel looks like if I'm running the dodge version of this build. So I choose to use the Raven shotgun and the micro Uzi, actually of all things. This gives me 12 concealment and it gives me some pretty decent damage output with my guns. The Raven does a solid 112 damage, very nice there. Micro Uzi is kind of crappy, but it's 31 damage and it has 30 concealment. So pretty nice, very concealable. So let's go in game a little bit and we'll kind of see how this build works out so you guys can see it firsthand. While all the mayhem is going on, I'll be dropping a few tips and tricks here and there as to how to effectively play these builds. So make sure you're listening. Tasers can cause a lot of problems if they get a hold of you and you're using the light armor build, which is featured here. One of the big adjustments to playing melee is that when you're in melee range, things are pretty chaotic. You have guys all around you, you have specials you have to deal with, you have to keep an eye out for cloakers, you have to be mindful of tasers. It can get pretty chaotic pretty quickly. Try and plan your movements and try and be aware of where special enemies are. Also, keep in mind that you're not exactly invincible. You can still take some pretty heavy spike damage, but it'll drop your health fast. Once you start racking up some kills, you'll see that your armor stays pretty stable and your health will top off as well. The occasional fear bomb where everybody just starts pissing their pants and shaking helps out as well. So dodge is definitely fun. It's cool to be light on your feet and hacking people up. Just remember to play like a dodge build. You still need to crouch to take advantage of some of your dodge skills. So just be mindful of that and just make sure you try and have really good movement. Jumping, crouching in midair so you get some nice little glides. The usual dodge stuff. Now we go over to the heavy version of this, which is what I prefer myself. This is a version that goes as a Tech Forcer, or Master Forcer if you prefer that variation. So the reason I like this one a lot is because it's a lot more stable and it's a little more predictable in terms of, staying alive. You have a lot more armor to work with, so that's great. Depending on how you spec, you have faster armor recovery as well. You have the ability to knock back tasers, so if a taser gets a hold of you, you're not just totally screwed depending on your weapons. And in addition to that, you can pretty much use any weapon you want because you're going to be high concealment, so you're not going to be running anything that has to do with dodge or keeping your concealment down, so you have total reign over your primary and secondary weapons. I definitely prefer the heavier version of this build, and that's what I recommend, but like I say, if you really like to do dodge, then you can do dodge as well. If you're curious as to why I don't take Aced Iron Man, the one that allows you to knock back shields with your melee, it's because it costs a lot of points. I'd rather just spend those points somewhere else. And shields aren't really that difficult anyways. Whenever I tend to play this build, I tend to run it with AP slugs or something that can help me take out shields pretty easily. With a little practice, you can generally get behind a shield pretty easily and just knock him right out. So I hope you guys have learned something today. Sociopath build is definitely really nice. You don't have to play it as a melee build. You can play it just as a regular, gunplay kind of build. It's really a good perk deck now. I like it a lot. It has very high survivability. It's pretty flexible. And there's really nothing I can say bad about it. But hopefully this inspires you to go out there and try a different way of playing the game. And hopefully you survive and you don't die. So, let me know what you guys think. This is Axiom of Good Time Gaming. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you like anything you saw here today. And remember to always have a good time gaming. Hey guys, it's Axiom. If you'd like to see some more awesome Payday 2 content, then why not check out the two videos here. Check out the one on the left if you'd like to see some Gauge Chivalry, and the one on the right to see our recent 14-minute Death Wish Loud Golden Ring Casino run. Thanks a lot, guys.